Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, let's tell you. Are you holding Ayin Aleph and base right after the Mishnah? Min Maya Filo.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 71b, right? Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. In this chus of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash immediately. Okay. Remember what we learned in the Mishnah, that if one sacrifice that's prohibited to use, for example, a chatas that needs to be put to death, it's not prohibited to be brought, it's prohibited to have any benefit from it, gets mixed in to other sacrifices, so then all of them need to be put to death. There's nothing you can do with that mixture. So actually, if you look carefully at the Mishnah didn't say that. The Mishnah said that a sacrifice that got mixed in to chatayis hamesis, to many chatayis that need to be put to death. One in many. So that one gets batal in the many. Not the other way. Not that one chatas hamesa, one sacrifice that needs to be put to death gets mixed into many regular sacrifices. Didn't say that. Said it the opposite. Said all sacrifices or any sacrifice that got mixed into sacrifices that need to be put to death. So then they're all put to death, even one in 10,000. Gemara asks now, Maya filu. What do you mean even one in 10,000? When you're using it, when you're doing it that way, when you're doing one permissible into many prohibited, even if it's one into 1,000, so it's going to be prohibited. What do you mean even one into 1,000? That's not an even. That's more of a reason to be prohibited. Not less. The even means I'll tell you a bigger chiddush. Even if it's one in 1,000, it's not a bigger chiddush. One in 1,000 is more reason to be prohibited, because I have one permissible and 1,000 prohibited. So the Gemara answer is hachi kamar. Rather, what it means to say is as follows: It's exactly the opposite. We adjust the Mishnah. And we explain, I guess we're editing the Mishnah, saying what the Mishnah means to say is that all sacrifices that a singular chatayis hamesis, a singular of the chatayis hamesis gets mixed in, even one singular prohibited sacrifice gets mixed in to 1,000 permissible sacrifices, and they're all put to death, even one in 1,000, right?
But if we don't edit the Mishnah, it's kind of like a bittul barov, except usually bittul barov, you want to find it going a good way. Here it takes on the characteristics of the 1,000, and therefore it's put to death. You don't need, why do you need to edit the Mishnah to come to a conclusion?
Because what you would come out with is an interesting rule. You would come out with, if I have the majority prohibited items, then the permissible one becomes prohibited.
Right.
But if you would have the majority permissible items, then they would all be permissible. Even though inside there you have something that's prohibited. And we would use the rule of bittul baroiv, as you're saying, and then it would be permissible. But that's really not what our Mishnah is doing. Our Mishnah is saying a rule that you don't say bittul baroiv. Even one in 1,000 means that when we edit the Mishnah, we have exactly the opposite. That even when you have if you have 1 and 2, it's supposed to be batal. 1 prohibited into 2 permissible is supposed to be batal. Okay, it's not batal because it's whatever. So 1 in 60, 1 in 100, 1 in 200, even 1 in 1,000, even beriba, I think the expression was 10,000, right? Even 1 in 10,000, it's still not going to be batal. That means we're dealing with something here that's called a davar chashuv, something that's an important item that's not going to be batal. If you don't edit the Mishnah, then you're back with that, with the rules of regular bittul baroiv. The only reason why you can't use it is because you have the majority that's not permitted.
So this is like I don't know what Yayin Nesek or
Yeah, well,
it can't. It's not. It's
never but
you suspend the usual rules
right,
of Bittul Barov because of the substance.
right,
Is that right?
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what we came out with. Achas beribit. 1 in 10,000. I was saying 1,000. It's 1 in 10,000. Okay. The Gemara asks, Tanina chada zimna. Tanina chada zimna. That's what the Gemara does that when it has a. It says, why is this necessary? We already learned this in somewhere else. It's in Tamura. Where is this in Tamura? Tamura is a small Masechta. It says it's in Tamura Daf Chav Ches. Okay. So it says like this. Anything that's not permitted to go on the altar. Yeah, it was one of the sacrifices that had a problem with it, and it gets mixed in with other sacrifices, and it actually says over there, even 1 in 10,000. It means one prohibited in 10,000 permissible. It's going to be asur b'kolshen. It's going to prohibit the entire mixture. Haroiveya v'hanirva. It gives me examples of the things that would be prohibited to go on the altar. It means an animal that a sin was committed with it, one way or another. A sin was committed with it, laid with a human. So the halacha that we just got out of our Mishnah, that even one prohibited item will prohibit the whole Eder, the whole flock, prohibit the whole flock. We that halacha we have in the Mishnah in Tamura. Why do we need two Mishnahs telling me the same thing?
10,000.
Never. I mean, never. Not like 10,001 would then be permissible. It's say infinite. Right. Okay, there's different versions to the next text, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but it's not for understanding the Gemara. Amar Rav Ashi, Amrisal Shmaita Kameder Rav Simi, Batzrachan. Rav Ashi says, maybe Rav Kana that said it in front of Rav Simi Barashi. Rav Ashi says that I said it in front of Rav Simi, and he told me that both Mishnayos are necessary. Dimei Hasam, if I would only have the Mishnah in Tamura Hava Amina, I would have come out with thinking that Hani Mili Ligavaya. Over there, I'm talking about a rule where something is not nullified. I don't have the rules of bittul. I don't say bittul. I don't say nullification. When don't I say nullification? That's when it comes to putting something on the altar. But a regular nullification, for example, something that's just asur b'ana, and it will be prohibited even to regular people. Emaloi, I would say that it's going to be permitted. Why was I strict? Because I'm dealing with a karban where you need to be very strict. But what about, you see over there, it wasn't talking about isurei hana. Over there, it was talking about isurei mizbeach. If a sin was committed with an animal, the animal doesn't become asur b'hana. It's not like I can't use it in plowing anymore. You can still use it. You can still use it in plowing. It can't be offered as a sacrifice, though. If there are two witnesses and the person was put to death and then the animal is also put to death, it's a different story. But over here, there's no two witnesses. So it's only prohibited to the altar. The whole prohibition is to the altar. So over there, we're strict. We say that it's never allowed to go on the altar because it's even 1 in 10,000, it's never allowed to go on the altar. But if you were talking about something that would actually be asur b'hana, which means that it would also be prohibited to a regular individual. Over here, it calls him a regular individual, a hedyot, which is where the English word idiot comes from. But that's not what we mean. We just mean a regular person. A regular person, we would say that maybe we could be more lenient. Malay. So therefore, we have to have our Mishnah that teaches me that we don't say the rules of bittul even for a regular person. It's not just for the mizbeach. And if it would say by us, I would say that when do I say it's not batal in 10,000? That's only because it's Isurei Hana. It's Chatayis Hamesis, animals that need to be put to death and no one can have any benefit from. Aval Hani, but those types of animals that aren't Isurei Hana, a Malay, I would say that those would get nullified. In other words, the stringency of the prohibition would add to the stringency in Bittul if I only had our Mishnah. But I wouldn't know that something that's not as prohibited is also not going to be batal. Still has the rules of the stringency of Bittul. So Tzrichi, so I need to have both Mishnayos. Gemara asks, 1 second, the Labi Suri Ananinu Patanale. You're cutting our Mishnah short. Our Mishnah starts off with talking about Chatayis Amesis, Shora Niskal. Sin offerings that need to be put to death. An ox that needs to be put to death because it killed a man. Okay, it says even 1 in 10,000. But if you read a drop further, it says animals that lived with a man, or something that was used as payment for what was dressmaker. A dressmaker, Dr. Stein's family share adjusted words. So those are animals that aren't those are animals that don't become prohibited to have benefit from. Those are just rules that it can't go on the altar, and our Mishnah says that as well. Why are you telling me that the reason why we need to have the Mishnah in Tmura is because otherwise I wouldn't know the laws of things that are not Isuri Hana? Our Mishnah has, if you read a little further, you see our Mishnah says the same thing. We don't. We're asking now. The Mishnah in Tmura is not necessary. The Gemara answers, Miktani, Miktani Bekama. You have to read in the parentheses. Does it say in our Mishnah 1 in how many? Does it tell us in our Mishnah the proportion, the ratio of how it's not nullified? Kol Shein Hasam Ktani. It only says it in that Mishnah over there that it's even 1 in 10,000. Now, the truth is that it doesn't say in our Mishnah 1 in 10,000, but that's going on the first case. When it comes to the second case, it doesn't tell us the ratio. Follow? So we need that Mishnah over there to tell me the ratio. The Gemara asks, so why don't you just finish over there say the ratio over there? Now, you don't need our whole Mishnah. It says, no, that's not true, because the content is If you notice, our Mishnah goes through a whole list of, so therefore, what do you do with this mixture? It doesn't just say it's prohibited. It says you have to sell it, and you make it gets a mum, and then when we use the money for this, it gives you the whole procedure of what to do, how to rectify the situation. That's called the takanta, the solutions. Our Mishnah gives us the solutions. Or that Mishnah over there in Tmura is more concise. It doesn't give you the solution. So our Mishnah is necessary. Now the Gemara says, the hedyait nami tanale, things that are prohibited for a regular person, which you said that's why it's necessary in our Mishnah, even things that don't go on the altar, right? That's what we needed our Mishnah to teach us that. But we actually have another Mishnah that teaches us that as well, that things are not nullified. We have a Mishnah in Avodah Zarah. Nami tanale. The following are items that are prohibited, and they'll prohibit their entire mixture, even 1 in a drop, with the ratio of 1 in 10,000. For example, yayin nesech, wine that's poured and that's mixed with other wine. Yayin nesech, wine that's poured for an idol, it's mixed with other wine. It will prohibit the entire vat. Avodas kechavim, or items of idolatry. So we have another Mishnah that says exactly what our Mishnah is saying. That's why do we need our Mishnah? So the Mishnah says tzrichi. It's necessary. If you would just have the Mishnah in Avodah Zarah and say, look, I taught you all the laws. You don't need the Mishnah in Zavachim. It says, Haba, I would have understood from that lehedyet. That's only when it's mixed in a mixture which is going to be used for mundane purposes. This is the opposite logic of what we had before. But when it comes to using something for the altar, I could think that maybe we should be more careful. We should try to figure out a way to nullify it so that the temple doesn't lose out, right? The house always wins. We should try to figure out a way to make it nullified, that the temple should be some dispensation for the temple, that we should be allowed to use it. That's what we could have thought, because over there in Avodah Zarah, we're talking about nullifying it for human consumption. Over here, we're talking about for the temple. I could have thought that for the temple, we would make it nullified. And if we would only say by us, Hava Amina, I would have thought that Hani Mili, Bekadshim Demas. I would say, why are we so strict? Because we're dealing with things that are for the temple. We'd say, well, for the temple, it's disgusting. It's disgusting to use an animal like this. So therefore, we say it's prohibited. I could say that maybe things that are Isurei Hana, things that are prohibited to have benefit from, should become nullified. If you're ready to eat it, go ahead. It's just for the temple we're not going to have it because it's disgusting. We have to be more careful for the temple, right? More refined, more better state, right? Okay. Now the Gemara takes on another approach. Right here, what we were doing is, why do we need our Mishnah? We have the Mishnah in Tamura. Why do we need Mishnah in Tamura? We have our Mishnah. Why do we need our Mishnah at all? We have a Mishnah in Avodah Zarah. And we said, well, I could have thought differently, and each one has like something to add. Now the Gemara says, well, 1 second. What about B'nei Batla Beruba? Why don't we say that it should be Batla B'rayv? Going back to the basic premise. We have a pasuk in the Torah that says, Achrab Lahates, that you follow the majority. And that teaches us that in other situations as well, if I have a majority, I can follow the majority. I don't know which one it is. I should just say everything is batal. 1 and 2. Maybe we say that nullification works with things losing its identity. So it doesn't have its uniqueness. That's how nullification works. But over here, it's so significant. Each one of these items is so significant. You can't say that it's nullified. You can't use it. It can't lose its uniqueness. So the Gemara says, "Hani chalaman damar." You could say this answer. We're talking about animals here. Say that each animal is so significant that it's not going to be nullified. Hani chalaman damar kol shadarke limnei shenino. What we're about to do now is we're going to get into a machlaikas. So we have several places in Shas. It's a Mishnah, but the Gemara brings it down in several different places. It's a discussion about items that are chashuv, items that are important, and they're sold by unit as opposed to being sold by weight. Vegetables are sold by weight or by unit. Depends which vegetable. Right? That's how they catch you, by the way, in the store. They say 69 cents, and then you look closely, it says each.
Yes.
not pound. Pound.
No, but it used to be bushels. It used to be volume. It wasn't pieces.
Right. So, right, each banana. So,
There's always a trigger. They always sell it by the pound.
Okay, so something that's sold by what we're going to learn now, something that's sold by a unit is less bottle. Significant. It's sold by each item gets its own packaging. Like in Costco, they make like a plastic thing around each item. So each item is special, right? Eggs today are sold by the dozen, sold by unit. It's not sold by weight. I think years ago, they were in farms, I think it was sold by buckets. It wasn't sold by
slaves.
So slaves were probably sold by unit. So now in this concept, we have a machlekes. It's going to come up. It's going to be a machlekes Rabbi Yechon Reish Lakish. When you say something that's sold by unit is more chashuv and it's not batal, doesn't mean that it's always sold by unit, exclusively sold by unit. or it doesn't mean that sometimes it's sold by unit, because it depends which store you go to. So things that are sometimes sold by unit, if you hold that that's enough to make it chashuv and it's never batal, then we'll say, okay, animals are sometimes sold by unit and it's not going to be batal. But if we're going to say, I'm explaining the whole Gemara, then we'll go through it. But if we say that animals, that it's not something that's sometimes sold by unit, only something that's exclusively sold by unit is not batal, then animals sometimes are sold by the flock, by the herd. Okay, so let's take a look. We're trying to say over here, why is the sacrifice that needs to be put to death not nullified in 10,000 other sacrifices that are going to be offered on the altar? So we said, oh, because it's significant, it's chashuv. We said, 1 second, but sometimes sacrifices sold by herds. Let's see. When you use the word kol, it means anything, which means not exclusively, something that's sometimes darkei limanes. It's the way to count it, which means that it's sold by unit. Shaninu, that's what the Mishnah in Arla was talking about. Anything that's sometimes sold by unit is going to be not batal. So then I understand why over here the animal is not going to be batal, because the animals are sometimes sold by unit. Something that is exclusively, the word, it's a contrast between the word kol, anything, which is more inclusive, which means that it's not exclusively something. All right, versus es shadar kelimnis means something that is exclusively sold by unit. Then ma'ikla meimer, animals don't go into that category. We should say that it's batal. Okay, the Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah. No, we're not ignoring that. We're saying that if you have 1,000 things,
But it has.
so take another one. When you take an animal, I can't use all the animals. Okay, I'll throw one out. No, but we're asking why doesn't it get nullified? Right? We're going one step prior to the law. We're going back behind the law. Why do you say that it's not nullified? So we're trying to figure this out. So we're saying because it's sold by unit. That's our answer. Because it's sold by. So 1 second, but it's not exclusively sold by unit. And there's an opinion that holds if it's not exclusively sold by unit, it should be nullified. So the Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Misha Yelei Chavili Tilsan, it's the one that has bundles of Tilsan. Tilsan, I think, is fenugreek. Shel Kalaya Kerem. Now, Kalaya Kerem makes it prohibited to have benefit from. Kalaya Kerem it grew in a vineyard. In a vineyard, you have to keep the grain and the produce separate from the vineyard. You can't grow it. It grows in the vineyard. Everything becomes prohibited. And actually, usually things from a vineyard are nullified 1 in 200. I think that's the rule, 1 in 200. So
You reminded me of Machne Yehuda Street.
boy.
Everything in Machne Yehuda Street is sold by the pound.
by weight.
Yeah.
Dr. Stein's,
the candies.
And if you recognize the stores in Israel, it's the the stores that they sell nuts and candies and
everything.
It's a lot smaller than a cow.
Smaller than a cow.
When I used to go to Japan, there were 2 ways you could buy an apple. You could go to a grocery store and buy an apple like it's sold here, or you could go to the specialty store and buy an apple that was perfectly shaped and was hand wrapped and was in a wooden box.
Wow.
The presentation apple.
Wow.
A lot more expensive.
Wow.
Chinese apple.
Here we have it the other way now. You can buy 200 homes in a package.
200 homes in the package.
A package, yeah. So you know what I'm saying? Not together, all over the place.
Things in the mail. Buy some 100 acres somewhere.
No. This is 200 different locations in one deal.
Okay, so Chavili Tilson, bundles of fenugreek, is of Klaya Kerem. And what happens now is
Asrbano.
it's Yidalku. It's Asrbana. Yidalku means it has to get burnt. It's Asrbana. We're on top of 72b. Sarvu ba'acherim. Let's say these bundles got mixed in with other bundles of tilsa and of fenugreek. The only time you hear this word is on Rosh Hashanah, because one of the items that it says in Shulchan Aruch is fenugreek. Ba'acherim, this is a machlekes if you're supposed to have this. And this mixture got mixed into another mixture. Now, from this mixture, some fell out into another mixture. Kulan yadalko, everything becomes not nullified. Is not nullified. It's not batal. Doesn't nothing because these are significant. Dibri Reb Meir. Reb Meir says that this is the halacha that it doesn't become nullified. I'm saying no. This gets nullified 1 in 200, like every kalaya kerem. 1 in 200. Usually in a milk and meat is 1 in 60. Here it's more strict because asrbana it's 1 in 200. It means in a mixture of 201, it's going to be nullified. Because Rameir says anything that's sold by unit, by item, is going to Mekadesh means that it makes everything prohibited. Mekadesh sounds like it makes it holy. Yeah. It means the opposite. It means it makes everything prohibited. The Chacham say that I accept that logic that there are things that are very significant and they can never be nullified, but that's only very unique items. We'll see what they are in a moment. Rabbi Kiva says, I agree to the sages, but I have, instead of 6 items, I have 7 items. Be'elohein, the items that the sages in Rabbi Akiva discuss, that those are so significant, Elena, Gezi Perech, walnuts of Perech. Perech sounds like a place. There must be special walnuts. Taisa says that it's not a place. It means that they crumble on their own. But that those are some sort of special nut. Rimaine Badan, pomegranates of Badan. I'm looking for the word jackfruit in here, but it's I don't know, it's not here. The chavis timish or closed barrels of wine, those are not nullified. Chilfei tarden, what is tarden? Beets. But there's 2 beet stalks. Oh, interesting. There's 2 parts to the beet. There's selek, which is beet. I think selek today is lettuce, I think. But silka in the Gemara was, and then tarden is beets. So I think there's 2 parts to the beet. There's the tuber, the
It's
bulb.
like mushrooms in the store.
And the stalk.
Yeah.
So the both parts. One. Okay. Anyway, whatever the case is. Kilfei tarden, kilchei kruv. This is some types of cabbages. What do they say? Cabbage stalks. The last Yavanis in a Greek gourd, pumpkin. Rabbi Kiva Meisav Kikr Shel Balabais, also homemade breads. Oh, those sourdough breads. These are not nullified. Okay, so it's 6 or 7 items that are not nullified. Everything else is nullified. Haroi la arla. If you have a mixture of this that was arla, in other words, if it's a fruit that grew on a tree, like the pomegranates or the walnuts, then it would be arla. Haroi la klaya kerem. If it's those other items, those vegetables, the gourds and the wheat or the fenugreek or with the cabbage, those could be klaya kerem. That would end up being klaya kerem, and they'll make everything into the halachas of klaya kerem. B'itmar Allah. Now we have a statement on that Mishnah, because in that Mishnah we had a machlekes Reb Meir, Rabbi Akiva, his own teacher, right? And the Chachamim. We have a machlekes where Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Shadak Lim Nishnin, Rabbi Yochanan says that what types of items, when Reb Meir says that nothing is nullified, nothing chashav, and nothing that's sold by unit is going to be nullified, that's only, according to Rabbi Yochanan, things that are exclusively sold by unit are not nullified, but things that are sometimes sold by weight will, yes, be nullified. Reb Shimon ben Lakish says no. Anything that's ever sold by unit is not nullified. So we say, Reish Lakish, we can explain our Mishnah according to Reish Lakish, because our Mishnah is talking about an animal, which animals are sometimes sold by unit. And so therefore, why is it not batal in our Mishnah? Because Reish Lakish, according to Reb Meir. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, that says that even Reb Meir would agree that animals are batal. So why is our Mishnah is like a stam Mishnah? Could be Reb Meir very easily, but not according to Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it should not be batal. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it should, yes, be batal. Why is it not batal? Rav Papa says, Hi Tana Delichik Siyasu. The author of our Mishnah is not what you were thinking, Reb Meir. It's a different opinion. So Rav Papa steps in to save our Mishnah. Why is something not batal 1 in 10,000? It's because it's following this opinion of litra ksias. Very interesting Mishnah in Truma, I think. The Amar, he says like this: Kol davar sheyesh by minyan. Anything that's counted, it's sold by unit, which means that it's typically sold by unit, even if it's not always sold by unit. Afilu b'derabanan leibatal, it's never nullified. In other words, I could say that it's following Rish Lakish, following Reb Meir, but what do I do with Rabbi Yochanan? So I have to come up with Rabbi Yochanan. Even according to Rabbi Yochanan, I have another opinion, which is not Reb Meir's opinion, but I have another opinion, which says that things that are sold, that are ever sold by unit are not batal. And so this is what we're coming up with. It says even if it's rabbinically prohibited, it's like batal. For sure, if it's biblically prohibited, it's not batal. The Tanya's was taught in a brisa, litra ksias. How do they translate a litra? They say a liter? A litra. Litra of ksias. Ksias are pressed figs. That's what they used to do. They used to take the figs and they would push them into like cakes, like fish cakes. And then they would harden.
And they would sell it with the packaging.
Yeah. They would harden and they would have to slice it off. They would pack it one on top of another in barrels. They would like fill up the bottom as one layer, then would put another layer on top, another layer on top, another layer on top. So Shadar Sal Pi Eagle. What do you have there? A picture? Oh, yeah, pictures of Ketzias for sale in Jerusalem. In the Koran. See that? You have to be careful if it's in the tourist place. They overcharge you and you have to bargain them down.
Yeah, it's the Arab. That was the Arab shuk.
No, it's a different mentality. They give you different prices. You're not in Publix when you go to the store over there. Okay, so Shadar Sal Pi Eagle, it's pressed on top of a circle. The circle. This was a circle that would make it into us. It was a vessel that would make it into a circle. When you do a basic darcy, you don't know onto which circle it was pressed. Doesn't mean it's on a barrel. Anyway, whatever the case is. Or maybe al pi chavis. Maybe you pushed it on top of a barrel. Barrels were round as well. When you do a basic chavis darcy, you don't know which barrel you pushed it onto. Or maybe al pi kaveris. Maybe it was like on a beehive that you pushed it in. You used the beehive for something else. Any day is a kaveris does, you don't know which kaveris, which beehive it was pushed into. Now you have a problem over here because you have this is truma, right? This has a problem with truma, and the other ones that are in the container are not truma, so you don't know where it is. You lost it. So Reb Meir says this is machlekes Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. What the machlekes says, you follow? So machlekes what the machlekes says. Yeah, this is like a classic. So Reb Meir says that the machlekes is as follows. Rabbi Lezer Aimer Rayin Esel Yainas Kilo Imprudis, but Tachtenis Malos Esel Yainas. Rabbi Lezer, this is Rabbi Lezer ben Horkenes, who's going to argue on Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, two students of Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai. He says we take a very lenient approach over here. We say that look, in this barrel, I have, let's say, 10 layers of ksias, of circular fig-shaped cakes, and on top of one of these barrels, I now have 10. Let's say I have 10 barrels, right? And you have 10 layers in each barrel. He says, well, that's 1 in 100. Even though it's not 1 in 100, it's 1 in 10, because I know it's only the top of one of these. He says, but so what? In each barrel, you also have another 9, so it's batal in. So it's really 1 in 100. It's a special leniency that we have because it's a rabbinic truma. It's not grain, wine, or oil, which would be the main halachas. This is a rabbinic truma. So special leniency when it comes to bittul that will let it become bottle, even though it's not a perfect mixture. Because I know the bottoms don't have it, but nevertheless, Rabbi Lezer allows that. Rabbi Yeshua says, "Im yesh mei apum en yalo, v'mlav hapum en asurin, v'ashulayim mutarim." Rabbi Yeshua says, that's not part of the mixture. If you have 100 tops of barrels, then I get it that it becomes nullified in all the tops because I don't know which one it is. But you don't have 100 tops. If you only have 10 tops, and now you're trying to say that it's a mixture with the bottom. It's not a mixture with the bottom. You need 100 barrels for it to be lost in 100. Because I know it's only the top. So Rabbi Yeshua says, all the bottom are permissible and all the tops are prohibited if it's going to be like that. Okay, that's the opinion of Reb Meir, what the Machlekes Reb Lezer and Reb Yeshua is. Reb Yehuda says, Reb Lezer, Reb Lezer really holds what we just heard from Reb Yeshua, that what enters into the mixture are only the tops, not the bottoms. The bottom doesn't enter into the mixture. It comes along Reb Yeshua, Sham Shleisha Meyes Pumin La Yalu. Even if you have 300 tops, it's never bottle. Why? Because this is something that's sold by unit, and this is the opinion that we were looking for. If it's sold by unit, it's not bottle. This is the author of our Mishnah that says that these are sometimes sold by unit and it's not bottle. Okay, Darsa Beagle. The Brisa continues. It says if it's pressed into a circle. It's not on the top. It's somewhere inside. Then everyone over there would say that it's going to be nullified because it's not nicker, because you can't find it. It's not specified where exactly it is, at the top, the middle, and the bottom. And now you don't know anywhere where it is. So then Rabbi Yehuda would say that even Rabbi Yeshua would say that it's going to be batal. Okay. It's nor nicker. Nor nicker.
That's where the song comes from. 100 barrels of beer on the wall.
I picture that too. The wine still.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's bottle, because if one fell, they don't care. It's good. They can still, unless it broke, then they can't use it.
There's a discussion about if one falls out, do we say that the prohibited one fell out? It's a different Gemara, but there's a theory in a logic that says that if you can assume that it fell into the, I think it might come up soon, that if it fell into a different mixture, that discussion, one mixture fell into another mixture, maybe you can get out of this issue. Okay, so that's our answer.
Also, yeah. For like sometimes for Meiser or something, if you don't know if they gave Meiser, so if something fell off, we say okay, that means it didn't have Meiser now, couldn't eat it. It was usher.
I mean that the one that fell off was the Meiser.
Well, no, it's just telling you that there was no Meiser taken on it, reminding you now you can take off.
That sounds superstitious. Is that a halacha?
No, it's superstitious, 100%.
Okay. It could be. Ravashi says, "Afilu temer rabbanan." You don't have to say that you found that one opinion. That one opinion, Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you found an opinion that says that things are not. You could go even more mainstream. You could say it's the rabbanan. Balichaim chashiv lebatli. Balichaim alive. Things that are alive are not batal. Umar says, okay, we have two answers, fine. But now let's, Umar suggests that we should have a different solution. Why don't we let one of them leave the mixture? And then we come into a different rule. If we let one come out, then what we would say is, V'neima kol de parish miruva parish. Remember we had a discussion about if you find a piece of meat, this is in Psachim, if you find a piece of meat in front of the butcher shops, and there were 9 kosher and 1 non-kosher, so we say that the meat's kosher. You found it on the floor in a bag. All the bags are the same, and you say it's kosher. You take it home, put it in the shelves, no problem. Call the parish mirror parish. It probably came from the kosher store. But that was different if you walked into a store and you bought it and you can't remember which store you walked into, then we say that no, that it was called kavua, kemechta al mechta, that was a 50-50, that was big trade. But if you found it in front, so it's left the mixture. So I say, where did it come from? Probably came from the majority. So and then we'd say called the parish miruba parish. We'd want to do the same with the animal.
The majority we were just talking about when that non-kosher.
No, now we're talking about there's 9 kosher. In our mixture as well, you have 10,000 kosher animals. And you have one, so take one out. Tell me, which one is this? It's from the kosher. So, and then we could sacrifice one at a time and just take it like that. The Gemara asks, Nimshech, Havalik Kavua. You can't do that because you're going into the mixture and you're taking it out. And if it's Kavua, if you're taking it from the place of the mixture, then called Kavua, we have a rule called Kavua, K'mechza Mechzadami. Gemara says, rather, Ella Nachbeshinu Denaidi. Gather them all together so that they should all leave the place where they're standing. And then from there, as they're leaving, I'll get some to separate from the leaving part, and then it's not considered kavua. When it's stationary, then it's kavua. Gather them all together and have them walk this way. Then you pull one out. The name called the parish miruba parish.
We said you can't do that with this.
So for some reason, the Mishnah doesn't give us that solution. So Rava says the reason why you're not allowed to do this is Gezer Shem Yavayu. Maybe a lot of kayanim are going to come and take 10 animals from this as it's happening, and they're going to sprinkle it all at the same time, and then maybe the prohibited one is going to be amongst them. So we have to leave it. Let's leave the Gemara right here. Let's leave it right here. It's a decree. Basically, the Gemara concludes right here that it's a decree.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry? The cycle? No, but we're saying that called the parish, miruba parish. If you take it away, then you should be able to have it would be a clear psak that it's going to be permissible.